this video expecting me to talk about my top 5 films of all time, I got bad news. You got clickbaited. Because I'm also going to talk about some other Blu-rays that I just got right now as well. So you're going to get 10 films in total, all for the price of 5. Because that's just how much I care about all of you. Anyway, so before we get into the video, just want to give you a slight update on what to expect in the near future. And that is that if you haven't noticed, I got a capture card to record PS3 games. And I put out that Demon's Souls video that some of you were hotly anticipating. And so now, of course, the plan is to make more videos based around some of my favorite PS3 games. So the next one that is supposed to be released is, of course, Dead Space. Yes, I'm going to be giving you a Dead Space video, but it's going to be quite a lengthy video because I'm not going to be doing just the bosses. It's going to be lots of moments from throughout the game that I really like, because if I just did the bosses, it would be quite a short video. Dead Space is not really known for its boss fights in particular, so that's going to be a thing. But there's a lot of footage to go through, and a lot of footage to edit, and a lot that needs to be recorded, probably more so than I could do in a single session. So that will all be happening eventually. So just, be patient on that, and we'll get there eventually. So there'll be more time in between videos. But with all that said, let's get on with the review. And of course, we have to have a good beer for today. This beer found was interesting. This is a organic London Fog beer from Dogwood Brewing. And I don't know if I've had any of their beer before, but it says it's got Earl Grey tea and vanilla in it. It's light and refreshing and bursting with flavor. This golden ale is a seasonable and, sessionable and easy drinking with a complexity that'll have you wanting more. Drink up all you can, because it won't be here forever. It's probably a limited release, so let's crack this cold one open. Always make sure to give a good amount of head, right? It's quite interesting. So, think Earl Grey tea and a London Fog tea, and it's very frothy and foamy, right? Now think that, but a nice sort of thick wit beer of sorts. That's how I could best describe this one, Yeah. I remember, one of the first craft beers that I tried that I could say I wasn't a fan of was this lavender tea beer, and I'd be interested in trying it again because I think my palate has expanded since then. But at the time, that was one where I was like, it's just not really my thing, But yeah, this is pretty cool. London Fog, Earl Grey, organic tea. So, I said I was going to talk about 5 Blu-rays first before my top 5 favorite films, right? Because, gotta lengthen out the video and the runtime somehow, right? Also because most of the films I'll be talking about in my top 5, I've either already done videos on, or I've talked a lot about already, and I want to give them their own videos. So, I'll try not to say too much on those ones. First recent acquisition to my Blu-ray collection. This is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And this was at the time of filming this, most recent Quentin Tarantino film. The 9th film from him, I believe. Usually it says that on the cover, right? And man, what a lovely poster and artwork that is, Very nice, very retro looking. Really like the design to it. So yeah, this is starring Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie, a whole bunch of other people. And this is about Leonardo DiCaprio's character is, Rick Dalton. He's an actor, TV actor, right, trying to make it big in Hollywood. And Brad Pitt plays his stunt double, Cliff Booth. And Margot Robbie is playing real-life actress Sharon Tate. Because this film, it's kind of a historical fiction, but also has some element of reality, that there's real people from history in it. So Sharon Tate's in it, so is a guy meant to be playing a young Roman Polanski, before all the controversial stuff, And yeah, it takes place in 1969 LA, and it's a really good movie, that's for sure. I definitely feel like Tarantino over the years has kind of become more and more self-referential with his films and his style, and it's definitely one of the most Tarantino films, if that makes sense. Quite a long film too, definitely pushing the 2.5 hour mark, I think, maybe even nearly 3 hours. Yeah, 2 hours 40 minutes. And it's quite a slower paced film. A good chunk of the middle of this film is just kind of hanging out with these characters, but it's really well written, well acted, very comedic in a lot of parts. So I'd say it's definitely worth it. I won't go into spoilers too much because it's a more recent film. Not everyone might have seen it, but I think it was one that got a little bit of a mixed reception, because some people were maybe disappointed that it wasn't Pulp Fiction, or that there wasn't as much of the good old Tarantino ultra-violence like Django or Inglourious Bastards. It's definitely a different type of film, that's for sure. But no, I definitely think it's one of his better, well-written ones. It's just probably better on the second watch, It was I saw it, I actually ended up seeing it twice on opening weekend, because I just had 2 different people that I went with both nights who both wanted to see it. And then, when it came out on Blu-ray and digital, I watched it, and it was just something about it. I could just skip into the middle of a scene, and I just had to keep watching from that point. I just couldn't turn the film off. It was just really encapsulating it. It just sort of really sucked you in. It was very immersive, this world, and the style to it. And it made me want to just drive a car with the windows down and the radio blasting. It's a really great soundtrack, too. And, later on, you definitely get some more than Tarantino violence and stuff, and a lot of things like that. So I think it's a really good one. I mean, I don't really buy Blu-rays that much, so if I do, it's usually because I like the movie enough that I want to have a good quality physical copy of it, right? Or, in case it gets taken off of a streaming website, right? Because you can never necessarily count that they're going to be there forever, unfortunately. But yeah, this is a really nice one. Very good, very good. Next film is Tenet. not Tenet. Tenet. Gotta make sure the pronunciation on that's correct. It's a little tricky. So this is the most recent film from Christopher Nolan. And again, I'll try not to spoil anything because this is a more recent film and not everyone's seen it yet. So basically, this film was supposed to come out in the summer. It's like a big summer blockbuster. And then because of the whole coronavirus and stuff, and, deciding that all the arts had to be canceled for the betterment of mankind, they pushed the release date back. And then they opened the theaters for like 1 week, right, before they decided to close everything again. But I got to see Tenet in theaters before then, so that was fun. Great theater experience. And then they decided to close all the theaters again, because as we all know, a nice big open room where you sit apart from everybody and you don't talk is much more dangerous than a crowded shopping mall where you're all pushed together like lemmings and yapping your big mouths all over the place, right? Sorry, I'm getting a little distracted. But yeah, so Tenet, most recent film from Christopher Nolan. This is like a action, thriller, spy, espionage movie with all of the Christopher Nolan staples to it. He likes his films to have like a complex sort of puzzle box natures to them. And there's usually lots of different layers of reality or time or dreams or everything like that. He had some of his earlier movies, like Memento, where it was told both forwards and backwards, so the audience could experience the main character's amnesia about how he can't remember what's happened before. And then you had, like, The Prestige, where it was told through interlocking series of flashbacks and people reading journals and diaries and stuff. You had Dunkirk, where, like, events were mashed up in different linearity to just make things more intense. And now you've got Tenet, where time can go both forwards and backwards, or more so, people and objects can move backwards through time. So, basically, without spoiling the idea in Tenet, is that there's technology that allows it. So, normally we are moving forwards through time, but technology allows us to have it so stuff goes backwards through time. However, to our forward moving perception, it would appear that, like, if you were moving backwards through time and you were walking forwards, what we would see is someone walking backwards, right? Everything reversed. So that's how it starts off, and it gets a lot more complex from there. So I really enjoyed this movie. I would definitely say it's not the best Nolan film. I'm a little weird with Christopher Nolan because I think the big three movies that people talk about with Christopher Nolan are Memento, The Dark Knight, and Inception as being his best three. And my favorite three are not those ones. My favorite three are The Prestige, Interstellar, obviously, and Dunkirk. So those are the ones where not as many people love them, or they kind of got some mixed reception, but I like those three better than his other big three. But yeah, I know a lot of people are mixed on Tenet, and there are some criticisms I can say of it. Like, people complain about the sound mix, how, like, the music and sound effects were too loud and the dialogue was quiet, and I didn't have as much of a problem with that. It was more so just a couple moments when, like, people are talking over radios or headsets and they have very thick accents. That can sometimes make it a little difficult. And the movie moves at quite a fast pace. It doesn't necessarily always give you time to catch up with certain events or lines. And the other thing I think that makes it a little hard to follow is that compared to Inception. In Inception, there's a clear goal, an end game of what must be done in the plot, and it's established quite early in the story, right? It's, okay, so we have this machine that can make us go into people's dreams, and we're going to go into this guy's dream and put an idea in his head, so when he wakes up, he follows through on the idea. Okay, nice and simple, right? And that's established before this whole mission starts, as that's what needs to be done. But in Tenet, they tell you some things about how the reverse time thing works, but they don't actually really tell you, like, what the plot is, per se. Like, all you know at the start is our main character, the protagonist, who, decide for simplicity to call him the protagonist, right? He doesn't have a name, he's just the protagonist. They're like, okay, you've got a mission, right? And somebody's made it so things can move backwards in time. So you gotta follow these bullets and find out where they came from. And then it's a series of him going from here to here to here, one trail on the next, figuring out. Finally we get to eventually figuring out that, oh, it's this big bad Russian guy, right? Might be behind it. Andrei Sator. He has plutonium-241, the ability to move things backwards through time. I've always had an instinct about the future. My accent's probably not as good as Kenneth Branagh's, unfortunately. But even then, once we know, oh, he's the big bad guy, it's not like, okay, well, let's take him down. They still have to figure out what his evil plan is. And then it's not really until you're in the final act that you understand what really is going on. So I think that makes it a little more difficult to connect to and follow what's supposed to be happening. I think perhaps if there was less mystery around that and it was revealed a little earlier, like, okay, this is what's at stake, this is what needs to be done, it could have made it a little easier to follow along. So that's a little unfortunate, I guess, but, there's a lot of great set-piece moments in this film, and very impressive effects and filming techniques to it, the way, like, all of this backwards stuff that's going on is done in camera, and, like, they had people, like, walking backwards and, like, cars rigged to look like they're driving backwards. Like, there's a lot of really great stuff there. So, I think it's kind of underrated in that way. And it is unfortunate that the film didn't get to have as big of an opening as it should have. So, we'll see what happens. I know there's some tension between Christopher Nolan and Warner Brothers because they want to put all of their films straight to streaming for 2021 and in theaters in the same day, and that's because, like, lots of movie theaters aren't open. He's a little annoyed at that, and I understand, and I'm just kind of annoyed that, like, so many, I'm okay with Warner Brothers putting their films on streaming. I'd rather that than them just be like, so, we've got this film here, and it's been ready for, like, 2 years, but we want to make sure that it makes money, and we know that if you can't pack, like, hundreds of people in a theater, that it's not going to make money, so we're just going to push it back for now and, like, release it when theaters open, and there has to be theaters alive for you to put the movie in theaters, But I understand, like, it's a business. You gotta make money off the films, right? And people will buy the physical copies and stuff, but I just want more new movies, that's all. There's so much to ask for. This next film I have is an interesting one because I haven't actually seen it yet. And it is Satantango, right? A film by Bellatar. And I believe this is a Hungarian film? Yeah. And this is a sort of art house foreign film, right? Hungarian film, about this humble agricultural community living in a bleak and punishing backwater after the fall of communism. So the main thing that people might know about this film is that it is 7 hours long. I'm not making that up. It's a 7-hour long film. You're like, what? It's crazy. Who has time to watch a 7-hour long film and like what it's all about, right? Well, first of all, if you binge watch all the Lord of the Rings movies in one day, then 7 hours is actually not quite as bad as it seems. And also, people will complain about a movie being too long, and then they'll go and like binge like all 900 episodes of Friends all over one weekend. So I know it's a different style and pacing to it for sure, right? And TV's episodic, so you have little breaks in between. But in terms of sitting down to watch media, right? 7 hours ain't that bad. And the film is kind of divided into 3 parts. Like this Blu-ray is 2 discs, and it has a part 1 and part 2 on disc 1, and a part 3 on disc 2. So why would I bother buying a Blu-ray for a film I've not seen that's 7 hours long? Well, I kind of thought, I'm interested in watching this movie because this is apparently a very well done, like, art house cinema thing, and lots of really slow, long shots. And when we get to the actual top 5, we'll soon see there's a reason I like movies with long, slow shots. And I thought, well, if I'm gonna watch it, I don't want to watch like some low-res version or anything like that, or a little streaming thing. Like, I want the highest quality I can. And I found out that this was just being released on Blu-ray right as I was interested in it. So I figured, well, may as well do that. So I have yet to sit down and watch this. I'm probably going to like view it as a trilogy, watch part 1 and then another day part 2. I know the director has said that it should be watched all at once without a break, and maybe I'll try to do it that way. But it's also a slow, meditative film, like a lot of long shots where not much happens and just allows you to kind of take in and enjoy the scenery and the art that's been created, or perhaps ponder your thoughts on events that have occurred. So I'm interested to watch this one. We'll see how it turns out. Next up is one of my favorite action movies from one of my favorite action directors. And this is Collateral, which was directed by Michael Mann. Now, he's probably most known for directing the 90s action movie Heat with Al Pacino and Robert De Niro. And that's like one of the best movies of all time. Like, it's so good. It's like the definitive crime movie. And it was so good that they remade it into The Dark Knight, essentially. Like, it's basically the same film in a lot of moments, in a lot of ways. I know it's not, but you know what I mean? It's like a soft reboot. So yeah, Heat's a great film. Michael Mann also did Public Enemies. That was a real great, Great Depression era bank robbery movie. He also did The Insider, which was about this cover-up by the cigarette industry to stop this 60-minute interview for kind of exposing them. That was good. I think he did a Miami Vice movie, but I haven't seen that one. And he also made the original Hannibal Lecter movie, Manhunter, because the whole, Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal Lecter stuff, it was based off of a book, but that had already been made into a movie called Manhunter, with Brian Cox as Hannibal Lecter. And I forget his name, but he's the guy who's in, is it CIS, or NCIS, CSI Miami, one of those crime shows that was on in the 2000s, and he's the guy like, what is it, Willard or Willem or something, or Grissom. Is it Grissom? This guy with the tousled curly hair and the beard, you know. That guy, he's in Manhunter, right? That was a fun movie. And the whole end climax is set to I Heard Butterflies in Agata-Davida, which is like one of the most awesome songs of all time. So, you know, of course I like it. So this one is Collateral with Tom Cruise and Jamie Foxx. And in this one, Tom Cruise plays sort of a hitman infiltration guy, and he is using Jamie Foxx, who is a taxi driver, as kind of his cover to take him around LA from target to target. You know, if he does, he says he'll let Jamie Foxx live and he'll pay him a whole bunch of money, right? And it's so that Tom Cruise's character, Vincent, can be moving along kind of anonymously. And it's interesting because Tom Cruise, he usually plays like, you know, the good guy, you know, clean cut and, you know, no nonsense good getter. Typically a military type guy or a spy, right? You know, like A Few Good Men or Mission Impossible. It's not always that he plays bad guys or weird guys. He was that weird, creepy, like, sort of like, what was his name? Like in Magnolia, right? He plays that weird guy, like, I will teach you how to seduce women, right? And, such a creep in that one. He's great. I like that movie, Magnolia, because there's the Dream Theater song, Honor Thy Father, that samples a bunch of stuff from it. And I heard the Dream Theater song first, and that made me go out and watch Magnolia specifically to catch all those vocal samples. But yeah, he's the bad guy in this one. But, you know, you kind of root for him in a way, because he's just, like, so cold and calculated, and he's a badass, right? Just, like, there's a scene early on where these two sort of street guys, these sort of street thugs, they steal this briefcase. And he just kind of walks up to them like, yo, homie, is that my briefcase? And he just basically does like a 1-2, 1-2 gun tap and just, bam, kills him off. It's brutal. Basically, he was like John Wick before John Wick was a thing. So, you know, it's pretty awesome, and love the way the movie's shot. It's like, not necessarily one where you have to be watching in the highest of quality, because a lot of it's like some lo-fi digital cameras, but it's just got this real, like, sleek look to it, and the way all the neon lights of downtown LA at night look is very stylized in a real cool way. I really dig the look to this film. It's very, very nice. There's a great soundtrack too. There's a scene that uses Audio Slave's Shadow on the Sun, which is my favorite Audio Slave song. That's a real good one, you know, R.I.P. Chris Cornell. That's a great moment. Yeah, a lot of great action in this movie. Definitely a good thrill ride with lots of great set piece moments, that's for sure. And the last one I have before we get to the real top 5 is, I don't know if it's a guilty pleasure, because I don't feel guilt about liking it, but I know it's not a perfect movie. It's kind of a memed movie, or kind of a movie that's made fun of, but it's one that I grew up watching. When I was younger, I knew every line in this movie. I watched it all the time on VHS, and I still love it. And it's Top Gun with Tom Cruise. This is actually, it's a steelbook version, which is pretty cool, you know? Nice, thick, sturdy steelbook. So, it has this sticker on the back with, like, the DVD, Blu-ray info. I should probably peel that off. It looks like it's meant to be peeled off, but I'm keeping it on for now, you know? So, yeah, Top Gun is like the ultimate 80s military Navy recruitment Tom Cruise plays Maverick. He's a hotshot pilot, and they fly F-14s in this movie. And I was really into jets, fighter jets, when I was younger. And so, there's a movie where they fly fighter jets, and there's dogfights and missiles and explosions. Oh, I loved it so much. And it's definitely a pretty cliche, overdone story. Not all the acting's that great, but it's a real fun one, You got Val Kilmer, it's Iceman, That's right, Ice. I am dangerous. Iceman's all like. And they play Danger Zone like 3 times in the movie. You can be my wingman anytime. Bullshit. You can be mine. I love it so much. But again, I recognize it's not a perfect movie, that's for sure, but it's a special place in my heart. And that's why I'm so sad that we're still waiting for Top Gun 2. I always heard it was going to be a thing, Top Gun 2, but, their original plan was to make one, like, right after the first one came out. And they were going to save money by using leftover footage of all of the plane dogfights and stuff, and military footage, to save money on that. But they found out that they actually used, like, every single shot that they had filmed for Top Gun. They had no extra footage that wasn't already used in the film. So they scrapped that idea. Yeah, they were making this Top Gun 2, and at first I was apprehensive, and then I saw the shot where the F-18, like, takes off the carrier, and it's like all one big shot. I saw that. I was like, oh, okay, do tell. And then the theme song kicked in, and I was like, oh yeah, here we go, Top Gun 2, baby, yeah. So I was pumped. And then they pushed the release date back. And then they pushed it back again. To like a year after its original release. So I'm filming this video in February, and it's supposed to come out in July. So I hope it does. Because I want to see Top Gun 2. And if you delay a movie long enough, there's not going to be any theaters to put it in, Because governments just can't give financial support to businesses that are out of business for the better of humanity. That's socialism, and that's just literally evil. That would make them literally Satan. That's wrong. But Top Gun's a fun movie. Even if there is actually not as much action in it as there would appear to be. Rewatching it, I'm surprised by how much more there is to it than just dogfights. Probably because when I was younger, I would just fast forward through all those scenes. There was definitely some scenes that I wasn't supposed to be watching when I was the age that I was. And there were definitely some lines that I would say and reiterate that a young kid should not be saying at that age. I'm sure if you've seen the movie, you can figure out what some of the lines are. But yeah. So yeah. It's just a fun one. I always have good memories of this film. Okay, now we are getting on with the real meat of the video. This is my top 5 favorite films of all time. Now, if you clicked on this video expecting me to only talk about Blu-rays, you got clickbaited. Because this first one is, well, I'm going to talk about a vinyl, and it is Alien. So, it also comes with this little slipcover bit that kind of just detaches from it. So, yeah, no surprise if you've paid any attention to my videos, but my 5th favorite film of all time is Alien. And I thought, well, I've already shown Blu-ray and DVD collection for this series. In another video of mine, I made individual reviews for all of the original 4 Alien movies. So if you want to hear more, you should go check those ones out. But what I thought I would do is, this was something I acquired more recently, and it's the Alien soundtrack on vinyl. The soundtrack original motion picture score composed by Jerry Goldsmith, who also did the music for Star Trek the Motion Picture, I believe. This was made by a company called Mondo Records. They kind of specialize in doing lots of film soundtracks pressed on vinyl with real cool artwork and usually with some kind of nice theatrical element to it. So this is the front cover to it, right? We got the xenomorph, the astronauts there exploring the planet. Then on the back here, a track list with this diagram here, which is based on some of the computer readouts and diagrams from the film. That to me looks like the computer graphic that shows up when the umbilicus is detaching the Nostromo from the cargo payload. Now, it's got all the credits here. It's cool. And they flipped the Weyland-Yutani logo upside down to be the M for Mondo. That's pretty cool. So, and then the sides, it's not like side A, side B, it's A deck, B deck, C deck, D deck. That's cool. It's important to note, though, that if you get this and you're expecting to hear all the music like what you heard in the film, you're going to be disappointed, because the Alien soundtrack was a little weird in that Jerry Goldsmith, he wrote a bunch of music for the film, and he wanted to avoid the cliche horror movie spooky sound, eeriness, and he wanted something a little more grand, triumphant, and almost romanticized as kind of this cool contrast to it. But I don't know if it was the studio, the producers, or the director, Ridley Scott. They didn't necessarily like the vibe of the score, so he rewrote a bunch of it to be a little more of that spooky, menacing stuff. But on the soundtrack you have here, it's the original score, what was written for the movie, but not necessarily in the movie. So, the main title track on here is not the actual track you hear in the film. That's the main title. But it's interesting because it has this theme in it, and it's a theme that tracks in the actual film echo. So the tracks in the film are echoing a main theme that is not actually the main theme that was in the film, if that makes sense. Or another one that's different is the end music. Jerry Goldsmith wrote an end title for the film, but it was not used. They used this classical piece, which I can't recall the name of. And there's other moments in the film where they used some of Jerry Goldsmith's music from previous works, like in, I don't know if it was a play or a film adaptation called Freud, perhaps about Sigmund Freud. They use some of that music in that scene where they try to cut the face hugger off and the acid spills and starts eating through the hull. The music in that scene, it was not for the film, nor was it written for this film. It was his older work put into this one. So, it's still cool to hear this music, some of it being in the film, some of it being written for it but not in it, but it is not complete. I think if you wanted to do that, you'd have to get the expanded CD version, There's also a 4 vinyl version of this set that has all those extra cues. But, you know, I'm okay with the double version. And then this is pretty cool here. You open it up and it's the hypersleep chamber from the film. That's pretty nice. And then even more cool is the record itself. It's not just any record. It's acid blood green. So you see that there's kind of that liquidy milkiness to it. It's not just green, it's acid blood green. That's pretty cool. I like that. So yeah. Again, I have a full review that talks about Alien. And I think that summarizes my thoughts on it pretty well. So, you know, I thought I would at least show you this record that I have, because it's a pretty nice record. And yeah, Alien is awesome because it's science fiction and it's horror. It's got great visual effects, great characters. I love everything about it. That's why it's my 5th favorite film. Right. My 4th favorite film is another one that I talked about in another video of mine, talking about a certain favorite director of mine. And this is Mulholland Drive, directed by David Lynch, who you might know as a surreal art house director, or a guy who's done lots of weather reports, you know. So this is the Criterion collection of the Blu-ray, and Criterion collection, they're like this organization that, like, I think is dedicated to, like, preserving classic films and helping restore some old ones and put out real cool, high-quality versions of films. And they're usually going out of their way to, like, have, like, you know, director-approved transfers from the original negatives and reworked sound and lots of cool extras and details and really pretty artwork. So I like them. They're pretty cool. You know, it says here, director-approved Blu-ray Special Edition, a newly restored 4K digital transfer supervised by director David Lynch and director of photography Peter Deming with 5.1 surround DTS HD master audio soundtrack. So this film is like a mystery, surrealistic thriller, and basically, well, Naomi Watts' character, Betty, she's like this new kid in town in Hollywood, she's gonna be a famous actress, and Laura Haring is this girl who is like in this limo wreck on Mulholland Drive, and she can't remember who she is or anything about her. So they're trying to figure out who she is. At the same time, lots of real weird stuff's going down. You know, there's like this movie director, Adam Kesher, and this weird mob guys are trying to force him to put a certain actress in his film, even though he doesn't want to. A whole bunch of weird Lynchian shenanigans. So, I like this film a lot because it's like, I like films that have some surrealness to them and mystery, and I like movies that can terrify me. And I always find that, like, the best horror movies are ones that aren't strictly horror movies. And there's a lot of real creepy stuff in this. There's, like, one of the scariest scenes of all time, and it takes place in broad daylight at a restaurant, right? There's no spooky mansion or dark, dimly lit alleyway. It's just broad daylight restaurant, scariest scene, right? And it actually has good jump scares, which is quite a rarity these days. The packaging as well with this is really cool. Like, so we got this nice artwork here, and got all these images here from the film, right? The blue key, and the cowboy, Betty, lots of images like that. there's also this booklet that comes with it. And it has this whole interview with David Lynch from like 2005 or something like that, and just a bunch of an interview on him about the film. It's quite in depth. I haven't read all of it yet. It's really great. He kind of talks about the history of developing the movie and how it was originally meant to be another TV show like Twin Peaks. But the studio had wanted them to cut it down, and they ended up like adding more to it to pull it from a TV pilot to a theatrical film, adding in a bunch of more stuff to it. And I'm glad they did, because I think the end product was really great. It can be quite confusing to follow, that's for sure. And I won't spoil it, but I'll just say that keep in mind that dreams are reality in David Lynch films, right? Dream reality is reality. There's only one thing I'm not a fan of with this Criterion Collection version, and that is there was a crucial element from the DVD release that they did not carry over to this Criterion one. And that is the DVD release had an insert featuring 10 clues from David Lynch to help you understand the film. And it was such stuff as, where is Aunt Ruth? And 2 clues are revealed before the opening title. Who gives a key and why? Stuff like that. That insert is not here in the Criterion release, unfortunately. That would have been cool. But they did keep one feature from the DVD, which is pretty cool, and that is there is no chapter select on this Blu-ray. If you try to skip to the next chapter, it skips to the end of the film. I think that's cool because, he was trying to say that, well, you should just be watching the whole film. You can't watch a single little scene out of it, right? That's preposterous, right? He's very against that. So he insisted that it have no chapter select, and they kept that for this version, so that's pretty cool. Again, I talked in depth about this film on my video talking about all of David Lynch's movies. So if you want to hear more of my thoughts, you can go check that one out. So there are 2 kinds of people in the world. Those who think Alien is the best movie in the Alien franchise, and those who think Aliens is the best movie in the Alien franchise. Well, I fall into the second category. I like Aliens more, which is why my 3rd favorite film is Aliens. Yes, 2 of the Alien movies are in my top 5. I thought about it for a while, but it's just, when you're choosing your favorites of stuff, you shouldn't have to think about it that much. It should just be like, I know it to be true. And I've just kind of always known it. It was like, that's how it was. It was Alien, one movie in between, Mulholland Drive, and then Aliens. It's interesting because I find a lot of people who like Aliens the best tend to also then downplay how much they like Alien. Like, a lot of people I hear say, oh, Alien was alright, it was kind of boring, kind of slow, yeah, but Aliens, yeah, that power loader fight, get away from her, you bitch, yeah. And, I mean, yes, I do like Aliens better, but that doesn't diminish my love for Alien. Again, out of all the movies in the world, there's only one that's in between separating those 2, so it tells you how much I like it, right? So, I just like Aliens better because it was like expanding on the lore and the concepts of the first Alien while still remaining faithful to the franchise and having all these details to it, and it just like was everything a good sequel needed to be, and that's why so many sequels seem to kind of have this idea that the second one is the big, more action don't know if Aliens was the film to invent that trope, but to me, that's what it feels like, right? That's why so many trilogies and stuff can be compared. Like, I always make the Dead Space comparison, you know. Dead Space 1's the horror one, like Alien. Dead Space 2 is the action one, Aliens. So yeah, it's basically like, I love Alien movies, and Aliens is better, so therefore it's number 3. Once again, I have a full review of Aliens on the channel, so you should go check that one out if you are interested. Right, number 2 is odd because I can't explain why this is my second favorite film. It's just like, ever since I saw it, I've always known that this was the second best film for me. I've always known what number 1 was, and it's a very obvious choice for me. But it's like, I even recently rewatched this one. I'm like, I can't explain it. I know it just feels right. And it is Apocalypse Now. This is the most recent 4K Blu-ray restoration of the film. It's got like the Top Gun Blu-ray, this sort of bit to the back, which has all the descriptions and details, and again, I'm sure you're meant to peel that off. I just haven't done that yet. So this is a really cool set because you see, just in 2019, Francis Ford Coppola, the director, he made this final cut of Apocalypse Now. And this version also includes Apocalypse Now Redux, and the making of the documentary Hearts of Darkness, which I think was made and filmed by Francis Ford Coppola's wife. So yeah, it's like an expansive 6-disc set with like all this artwork to it. You know, very nice. So I grew up watching the Redux version of Apocalypse Now. It's what I had on DVD. And that one is like, the original film was 2.5 hours. The Redux added how much footage to it? It made it like 3 hours, 10 minutes or something like that. So a lot of footage was added to it, particularly 2 lengthy scenes. And so this final cut is now meant to be like a in-between version where it's got some of the stuff from the Redux, but not all of it. A kind of healthy medium. So I've looked up what is in the final cut, but I actually haven't watched the whole thing, because the other day when I went to watch it, I just was like, screw it, I want to watch the Redux version. I want to watch the big 3-hour plus version, you know. And the final cut version's a little closer to 3 hours. So this is a Vietnam War movie, and it's also based off of the Joseph Conrad novel Heart of Darkness. And the idea in this one is that our protagonist, Captain Willard, played by Martin Sheen, he's tasked with a mission to go up this river through Vietnam all the way into Cambodia to find this rogue American colonel, Colonel Kurtz, and terminate the colonel, because he's gone completely off the rails. He's operating on his own terms, outside the control of the government and their war. So, you know, as Martin Sheen would say, murder. Charging a man with murder is like trying to hand out speeding tickets at the Indy 500. So, many people might know this film from the big helicopter attack sequence near the beginning or first act of the film. It's this big, huge set-piece moment where the air cav helicopters, they all go to raid this beach. What was it? Colonel Kilgore. Yeah, that's his name. Colonel Kilgore, played brilliantly by Robert Duvall. He basically hears that, oh, there's a great peak, great beaches. There ain't any good beaches in this whole country. Sir, got pretty hairy in there, you know. This is Charlie's territory. Charlie don't surf. So he decided to just do a giant invasion purely on the fact that he wants to get good waves for his surfing, because he likes surfing. You know, good 6-foot swell. And during that scene, you know, he plays music off of these giant speakers on the helicopter to kind of warn the enemy that they're coming, right? He plays Ride of the Valkyries by Richard Wagner. Right? Dun 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 dun. And it was something that I had seen parodied many times before, so when I watched the movie, I finally recognized it. That's kind of your big set-piece action moment in the film, but the rest of the film after that, it's actually very slow and very trippy, like almost kind of like this drug-induced, like hypnosis or this meditative haze. Like it's a very droning, creepy, early 70s synthesizer score, and a lot of really weird, off-putting moments to it, you know. Very weird cinematography and camera shots, and that's what I like. It's not a gung-ho action movie. I wouldn't necessarily call it an anti-war film. It's just like very strange and odd, and there's this like mysticism to it, you know. And you know, this weird journey to the unknown realm. It's like they're journeying into another world. The further upriver they go, and the stranger things they see. Yeah, it's just such an experience. I was like speechless after it ended. It's got a great use of good music, like The End by The Doors, and a great opening scene with this tree line getting bombed. It's just, wow, so fantastic. It's crazy to think that the intro to this film was kind of made up on the spot by Francis Ford Coppola, just going through leftover footage to come up with something. But, you know, it's, again, I can't exactly figure out why it's my second favorite film. It's just something I've always known. I just really love it. You know, it's a great film. And it's also nice that you have all three versions available, you know. And this ain't no Star Wars, where they're constantly making new versions and deleting the old ones. You know, this has all of it here for you. And it's all done in the same quality, so it's not like if you watch the original or Redux, you're getting a lower quality version. Like they remastered and redid all of it for this version. It's one of the sad things about the Dr. Sleep Blu-ray is that the theatrical version has a 4K version, but the director's cut is only on Blu-ray 1080 2K. No 4K version for that one. Okay, fine, I guess. So, yeah, that's my second favorite movie, Apocalypse Now. I have no idea why. It just feels right. And lastly, my number one favorite film of all time. One which I'm sure I've mentioned before as being my favorite somewhere here and there. And if you know anything about me, it should be a pretty obvious answer as to what it is. I like slow, boring movies with lots of pretty shots that are just all about taking in the scenery. I like science fiction. I like movies that have some kind of real creepy, horrific stuff to it, even if they aren't just straight up horror movies. I like films that are very, like, obtuse, hard to understand, or perhaps have lots of, stuff that comes up a little more on the second watch that makes you think. I like movies that have really great quotes to them. I like movies that were hugely influential. And I like Stanley Kubrick movies. Stanley Kubrick's my favorite director. And why is that? Because my favorite movie of all time is 2001, A Space Odyssey. Sometimes the predictable answer is because it's the right answer. Yep, surprising no one, I'm sure. So yeah, 2001, A Space Odyssey. This is another film that I watched when I was probably too young to understand it. And it was just because I liked, like, spaceships and stuff in outer space. You know, I loved Star Wars, right? And you know, this had spaceships in it, and like a black hole and wormholes and stuff. And I just thought, like, ooh, cool, it's pretty. I don't know why there's like no dialogue and everything's so slow, but it's pretty. I like it. So yeah, it's my favorite film of all time. And to explain why I like it might take a video of its own. You know, maybe I need to make videos specifically for these ones, like how I have videos for Alien and Aliens. Yeah, how do I go about it? I mean, again, it's like all those details I liked. I like the slower paced movies that are about showing you beautiful cinematography. That's what 2001 does. I like science fiction. This is pretty much like the most definitive science fiction movie you can get. There's some kind of cosmic horror to it with the monoliths in this movie, you know, this weird ancient alien artifacts, right? Something we see in like Dead Space or Mass Effect with the Prothean beacons and the marker. You know, weird creepiness to it. It's got HAL 9000 and everything he says is great, you know, open the pod bay doors, Hal. I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that. All great stuff. And it's got like a lot of mystery to it, you know, what does it all mean? What's going on with the ending, right? Really makes you think, and I think this is the film that really set the standard for that film is art, that film is a moving picture, right? A moving painting. So, yeah, it's always been my favorite film. It just, I've always known this. I never had to sit down and do math and think about, okay, well, this film's number 7, but this film has that comic relief character, so I've got to bump it down from 5 to 17, and, oh, well, you know, this one was a little too long, I got to bump it here. I didn't have to do any of that. I just always knew this favorite movie. 2001: Space Odyssey. It's just how it is, you know. I know that this film is not everyone's cup of tea, because it's slow and it's boring, and you know, it's like, well, just get to the action, get to the dialogue, right? And the idea that, oh, if you just cut out this giant moment from it, that you would lose nothing, and I just don't agree with that sentiment, you know. I think this film is memorable because of that, and you'd lose a lot of that impact. And it was a film made to showcase all the wonderful things you can do with the film medium, and how you can bring to life all these other worlds and these visions of stuff with all these cool special effects, and just revolutionized the way you show things on screen. So perhaps I might need to dedicate my own video to this, or to all of Stanley Kubrick's films. The only thing I have planned is more PS3 games like Dead Space, so, you know, we'll see what happens from there. But 2001 is my favorite film, that's for sure. And yeah, had some good beer while we're at it. London Fog. I know. It ain't no candy, dude. Nail it. Well, that's all I have for you for tonight. So, hope you all catch you next time. Don't forget to let me know what your top 5